May the Lord give this council the wisdom, discernment and courage to serve the community. Grant also that we may act compassionately and with integrity in the best interest of this shire. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. I would like to show respect and acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land and elders past, present and future on which this meeting takes place. This meeting has been recorded and those in attendance should refrain from making any defamatory statements. There are to be no other recordings of this meeting without the prior authorization of council. Okay, thank you, councillors. Apologies. Nil apologies. Just councillors, just for your information, we have the actual resignation of Joshua Brown come through yesterday, and I won't read that, but that will come to the council meeting in December. Thank you. Okay, councillors, public participation. We've got 4. We've got D11.1, DA 55/2020, commercial alterations, additions, service departments and cafe. Mr. David Cassens. Thank you, David. So you beware, David, you've got 5 minutes and then maybe some questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, councillors and staff members. Thank you for the opportunity to address council regarding item D11.1, commercial alterations to the Golden Fleece building. This is an exciting development which will transform a currently rundown and dilapidated building into a thriving, upgraded building which will be a feature for Kelly Street, unlike its current status. On behalf of my client, can I pass on appreciation for the report, which is recommending approval, subject to a number of conditions. Generally speaking, we're in agreement with those proposed in the report. The purpose of my submission tonight, however, is to request further consideration of the proposed condition 5. This condition seeks to remove the proposed Unit 8 from the ground floor and provide access to the building from Liverpool Street, utilising the existing doors. Our plans do not remove these doors, so that there is in fact no change to the southern elevation. Access from Kelly Street, however, is proposed through the cafe and will be available 24 hours per day. The commentary in the report indicates that the reason for the condition requiring Room 8 to be removed and the existing doors retained is to preserve the heritage significance of the building and to provide suitable access to the accommodation from the street. We contend to councillors that the existing doors are being retained on the Kelly Street elevation. So the only change is that they will have limited use, likely for one room only. Any loss of heritage significance is therefore only associated with their use, and this change is reversible if and whenever required in the future, which is consistent with heritage policy. My client wishes to emphasise the importance of this development having 40 rooms. Mr. Brown has undertaken extensive research into this industry, as you'd expect for such a proposal, and it's very clear that larger operators who may be interested in managing the apartments in the future will only consider it if there's a minimum 40 rooms available. This number is critical to the proposal proceeding at all. I must admit our plans should have had more detail clarifying the access through the cafe and how it will work. However, we're confident that use of a glass partition wall adjacent to the handrail of the ramp with security doors at the ramp entry and internally into the cafe will successfully separate the cafe operation out of hours and allow 24-hour access to occupants via use of the key card entry. Amended plans will of course be prepared and submitted with the application for a construction certificate, which my client will be progressing upon issue of development consent. Should this condition proposed not be varied, the only option would be to provide another room, and the likely outcome would be loss of the proposed cafe. We see this as an important component of the development, being able to service both guests and the public when operating. It also provides an improved facade for this prominent corner of Kelly and Liverpool Street. Preliminary plans, in fact, use this space for accommodation, and the version we have now incorporating the cafe is a considerable improvement. We have noted that the report indicates that there is no consent for footpath dining, which is consistent with advice from the applicant during the assessment when clarification was sought. We're happy to address this separately, and we would look forward to a positive response. We believe that such use would help contribute positively to the activation of the Kelly Street frontage. My submission tonight is just limited to this aspect. Hopefully council can appreciate the importance of this development, including 40 rooms. It's essential to be able to attract a professional operator in the future. Whilst the plans can be modified to add a room, it would result in the loss of the proposed cafe, which we believe would be detrimental to the development as a whole and to the Kelly Street streetscape. Thank you.
Okay, councillor, got any questions? Councillor Watts.
Hi, David. Just in relation to the closure of the cafe, how will it close at night time?
At night time? My understanding, Councillor Watts, is that there'll be like a glass partition wall which will run adjacent to the ramp on a full-time basis, and then they'll have the entry off Kelly Street, and then there'll be another door which would provide access into the cafe, which would be secured.
In relation to car parking?
Yes.
If there's no access through that side entrance, if that remains there, how will people get to the car park? It'll only be from Main Street? No
access to, there's two doors at least at the rear of the building to access, or you mean the street car parking? Yes, they would use that off Kelly Street.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, David, for presenting this. I think it's a great development anyway to give more accommodation to Scone. Look, when you use those glass doors, how much of it will actually close off? And the point I'm making is, does it give enough access if there are a number of people wanting to come in and go to the booking office or whatever it's going to be? Is there enough room for them to congregate without having to sort of be standing right alongside each other?
I believe there would be, Councillor Campbell. It's got to comply with accessible ramp requirements. So it's got to be the appropriate width to satisfy those in a wheelchair or otherwise disabled being able to access it. In terms of congregating to wait for a room, it's all done online. There'll be an arrangement for them to pick up a key card, and that will be it. They'll just go straight to their rooms.
So just a further question. In effect, there will not be anybody at the desk, or is that only in the daytime? It's just going to be. That's
correct. Yeah,
right.
There'll be some sort of arrangements for people to make a call if there's an issue in any respect, but not necessarily somebody there on a permanent basis.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Abbott.
Thank you. Thank you, David, for your presentation. I just want to ask you, why can't the stairs be saved, the original stairs?
Look, there are issues with the stairs in terms of their geometry, the way that they're constructed, etc. To comply with the current fire regulations, it would be a very difficult task indeed to make them comply. So then to leave them there, as well as put a set of complying stairs, we'd certainly be losing rooms.
To clarify, so the stairs are dangerous at the moment, are they?
I was saying they don't comply with the current fire requirements, and they would be required to be upgraded if they're a source of access from the upper level in the future.
Any further questions? Okay, thanks, David.
Thank you.
Okay, councillors, go down to D 11.2, DA number 103/2020, commercial alteration to aircraft hangar. Mr. Peter Willard. Can you hear me, Peter? You there, Mr. Willard?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, you've got 5 minutes to put your presentation across. So whenever you're ready, thank you.
All right, I thank council for letting me participate in this meeting. seeing I'm still in hospital. Thank you very much. In regard to Pay's development application, which I have put submissions in, I'd like to talk about that. Now, the building itself was originally passed with the DA by Mr. Casson. Should remember that quite easily, that he was the one who signed off on it. That was to be for storing warbirds only and a museum. The reason why, that it's only 20 metres from my house and 50 from across the road, which have elderly and shift workers. So noise is a problem. So the late Cole Pay told me that there'd be no activity inside or outside regarding workshops. But Ross Pay approached me about they wanted to separate the fire bombers and the warbird restoration. And we came to an agreement. I said I won't oppose that as long as it's done right. And main things I concentrate on was, can you hear me?
Yes.
The main thing I concentrate on was contamination, noise, and the flooding around that area, which I gave the photos to council and to Matt Clark that can understand the volume of water. So Ross and I discussed it. As I said, as long as it's done right, I won't oppose it, because I have warbirds of my own as far as warbird restoration. What we came up with when I was shown the drawings and that, there was a few things I wasn't happy with. Was the drainage and the stormwater, and Mr. Clark didn't convince me that that would work. Seeing I told him that they need larger gutters and bigger diameters to handle the volume of water. I also said that the soundproofing room should be having no noise, zero noise from it by insulating it. Now, when it is insulated, to do a test on the noise coming out of it after it is done. You can work it out with mathematics, but as it's fitted, it should be done after it is fitted or made. Now, the contamination with it, they'll have oil and things in there, and if it gets outside the front door, it contaminates my place next door. The location of that building, as I say, was for warbird storage only. And of course, it's so close to my place and the people across the road. That is why I'm speaking about its proximity.
Peter, just can I interrupt you, please? You've got 1 minute left. Sorry, I don't know whether I told you that at the beginning. Thank you.
Yeah, so, and the other thing was hours of work. Now, Paul Smith said it'd be normal working hours, which would be 7:30 till 5 in the afternoon from Monday till Friday, with no work on the weekend, because the new car park and the 2 new entrances will have cars coming and going late at night and early in the morning. Because remember, if they run the flying school out of there, it's light at 5:30 and doesn't go down till 9 o'clock at night. So I don't want cars driving around there and shining their lights into my bedroom or lounge room. So as I said, I'm not opposed to what Ross wants to do, as long as it's done properly. As far as hours of work, flooding or drain water and noise, and yeah, so that's about all I've got to say about it.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Just hang around, might have some councillors to ask you a couple of questions. Just hang on there for a second.
Okay.
Any councillor questions? Just ask one, Peter. As far as I can read through, a lot of those conditions are put in the through the consent. So, you happy with that?
If those conditions are met, I'm happy with that. Remember that, as I said, David Casson should be aware of that building when it was put up, and what confident me that nothing would happen down there. But I'm willing to work with Ross as long as it's done right.
Okay, Peter, there's no further questions. Thank you very much for your presentation, and get well soon.
And thank you very much for letting me speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, we're at I11.2, fixing local road grant. That was from Karen and Steve Full James. It's not actually a public participation, but you've all got the letter that I forwarded to you, and that will be discussed further on in the agenda when it gets to that item. So no questions on that. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to Scone Neighbourhood Research Centre, G11.1. A research centre, sorry, a resource centre. And ask Lee to do a presentation.
Thanks. It's all right. We on? Yep. I'll talk anyway, it's okay, you can put that on in the background. The last 6 months of 2019 continued as in previous years with the Be Connected weekly training program for people over 50 to learn digital devices, family fun days in partnership with council. Training in construction and hospitality was offered with ATAC facilitating the courses, and we offered creative arts, pottery and drawing for the first time this year with young children. Yeah, just keep going next, it's fine. Yeah, I didn't do it. And there's a little wish list up there in case anybody is reading that. Christmas in the Park, although threatened by fire and smoke, went ahead safely and was well attended. We added a flash mob and there was a great response of stalls available. Santa joined us as hot as it was, and the kids had a great time on the inflatables. The heat did put our fireworks on hold and were packed away for a year. And unfortunately, due to COVID and we're not having the event this year, they've been packed away for another year. So we're really hoping they'll be okay next year. All activities provided the community with a true community Christmas event. The SNRC auction was held in March. COVID was new and nothing was closed at this stage. We had a good turnout and raised a fair bit of money, which we put straight back into our service. Toilet paper was non-existent in the shop, but this time we took the opportunity to auction off 6 rolls and we got a very good amount in dollars for that. And it is all for a good cause. We think we're a good cause. 2020 was anything but business as usual, with COVID changing how the country did just about everything from March onwards. Shops closed except for essential services, which we were one of. One of the services continued its role, and we developed new services so that we could support the people most vulnerable in our community. And it may have been just that they couldn't get out to the shops for whatever reason. The Scone RSL Club and BHP Billiton supported those most vulnerable through funds that our service used to purchase groceries and essential items. A volunteer drive saw incredible people put up their hand to do grocery shopping, chemist pickups, and book deliveries to the many isolated within their homes. In lockdown, we continued to apply for grants with little success. Our service made a decision to create the Scone Community Pantry business to combine all our services that support those most vulnerable in our community is now under that banner. We have now applied for PBI status in the hope we will have more success with sponsorship and grant opportunities. The pantry and breakfast van, the home help, the Christmas hampers and Christmas presents drive are a large part in this organisation. Our volunteer pool changes, but we are fortunate to always have numbers to keep the programs running. Our supplies are all donated through generous community members and Coles and Woolworths as well. COVID did make us creative if we weren't creative enough before. We still provided our candlelight ceremony and NAIDOC week. Although people were not permitted to attend or very small numbers, we live stream many of our events and continued, reaching further than we had before. On the return to office, barriers were put up in offices. 1.5 is now part of our vocabulary we have all adapted to. We are resilient, and though it is still not over, we are so lucky to have been in Australia and not impacted like other countries around the world. We were successful with the My Community grant, and we are working closely with Council to provide the All Abilities Playground at Bill Rose Sporting Complex. More news on that at next year's chat. At the same location, the exercise equipment that was placed by the Neighbourhood Centre a number of years ago was updated by Council and is providing 24/7 free access to gym equipment. Our staff remain the same with Jan, Jala and I. Combined hours, possibly the longest serving community workers in New South Wales, I think. We do about 50 hours, and we have been altogether over 50 years in community services in the one job, the three of us. Our community strive to create new programs to meet the need of this community. I personally thank Jan and Jala, the committee and Council for their ongoing support for everything we do in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Any questions to Lee?
No.
You got off of that lightly.
Yeah, no.
Thank you very much. Okay, councillors, we move over to the confirmation of the minutes, the ordinary council meeting held on the 26th of October. Someone like to move those? Move Councillor Watts, second Councillor Driscoll. Questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. The extraordinary council meeting held on the 10th of November. Someone like to move those? Move Councillor Driscoll, second Councillor Campbell. Questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. The extraordinary council meeting held on the 16th of November. Move Councillor Driscoll, second Councillor Campbell. Questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Disclosure of interest.
Yes, we've received two, Mr Mayor, both from Councillor, the third one has just come in. The first one from Councillor Lee Watts in relation to item G 11.3, relocation of the Scone Library. The nature of the interest is non-pecuniary, non-significant due to the fact that the Neighbourhood Resource Centre is identified in this particular report and potential, there could be a partnering there. And Councillor intends to remain in the room, take no action and vote as required. The second one also received from Councillor Watts in relation to item G 11.1, Scone Neighbourhood Resource Centre annual presentation. Pecuniary significant by virtue of the fact that the councillor is the manager of the Neighbourhood Resource Centre. Councillor intends to leave the room and have no involvement in voting. And thirdly, one from Mr Haviat, Director of Infrastructure Services, and in relation to G 11.2, request for donations, non-pecuniary, non-significant by virtue of the fact that his son attends the Scone Scouts group and he intends to take no action. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Mayoral minutes is nil. Okay, councillors, move straight over to the agenda items SCR 11.1, infrastructure services on page 1. Move councillor Campbell. Second, councillor Driscoll. Any questions, comment, discussion? Councillor Abbott.
Yes, further to my questions at the meeting about affordable housing, when is it likely that we might start our affordable housing scheme feasibility study? And I'd just like to comment that I went to the National Party Love-In, I think, I'm not sure what you would call it, last week at the RSL with Barnaby Joyce and Michael Johnson. And Michael, our state member, was very positive and encouraging about money available from the state government for affordable housing. So will council work in with the state government and with our local member who was so positive about this? Can we capitalise on his very encouraging remarks at last week's event? Thank you.
Through Mr. Mayor, trying to find that question in the minutes. I'm sorry.
The question, it was with respect to my questions that I asked during the discussion on the Barrington Tops Road, and we were looking at the different the different grants, like fixing roads or roads to recovery. I was wondering if we could do a housing to recovery, and it was just questions with respect to how with infrastructure we always concentrate on roads and not houses. So it's and how building houses is definitely infrastructure, and it's something that we ought to be doing, and we haven't done for the 4 and a bit years I've been a councillor. And we were to start a feasibility study. That was a motion that we moved, and it hasn't ever started. So I just wanted, because it was in here as a question that I asked at the meeting, I wanted to ask it, and the fact that Michael Johnson was very encouraging at last week's meeting. Thank you.
Yep, so through you, Mr. Mayor, I recall that the resolution of council was to carry out a background study on this particular issue, and it was subject to funding. So we can have a chat to our grants officer to see if there's any funding available for this project.
Okay, councillors.
I just have one thing, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I am a member of the Infrastructure Services Committee, but due to ill health and my current work schedule, I haven't been able to make one of the Infrastructure Committee Services Committees this year since March, and therefore I tender my resignation.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. I believe there's myself, Councillor Driscoll, Councillor Campbell and Councillor Abbott on that committee. So, Mr. Acting GM, that would be okay to continue with that?
In the interim.
Yep. Thank you. No more questions, comment, discussion around infrastructure? All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Over to page 11, SCR 11.2, Development and Environmental Services. Anyone like to move the dot point 1, adopt the minutes? Move Councillor Watts, second Councillor Fisher. Any questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Down to dot point 2, DSC 11.1. Someone like to move? Move Councillor Fisher, second Councillor Burns. Any questions, comment, discussion? Councillor Burns.
I'll just echo, Mr. Mayor, I'll just echo what Councillor Watts and Councillor Abbott both said in the meeting about the builder saying you don't need a DA, and I hope the council has, that staff have gone out and told all of our local builders and anyone else that tries to come up here that they cannot do anything without a DA.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Any more questions, comment, discussion? Can I have a show of hands, please, in favour? Okay, thank you. Move over to page 23, C 11.1. Move Councillor Watts, second Councillor Burns. Any questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 26, C 11.2, the Heritage Advisory Committee. Move Councillor Driscoll, second. Councillor Burns. Any questions, comment, discussion? Councillor Abbott.
Yes, I'd just like to comment that I've resigned as the chair and as a member of the Heritage Committee. And I'd further like to comment that this committee seems to be essentially a box ticking exercise and a toothless tiger in matters of heritage and conservation. Thank you.
Any more questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 30, C 11.3, Australia Day Merry War. Move Councillor Campbell. Councillor Driscoll. Questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 32, C 11.4, Scone CBD Revitalisation Committee. Move Councillor Watts, second Councillor Burns. Any questions, comment, discussion? Councillor Abbott.
So are we to do this in closed council? Is that correct? The appointment. Oh, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
No questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Councillors, over to page 36C, 11.5. Someone like to move that we deal with this in closed?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd move a suspension of standing orders to utilise C 11.5 in closed council.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. And the seconder, Councillor Driscoll. All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 40D 11.1, the development application number 55/2020, commercial alterations, addition services, apartment and cafe. Councillor Burns.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll move this with a slight amendment that council grant consent to the development application number 55/2020 for commercial alterations, addition serviced apartments at 180 Kelly Street, Scone. Lot number insert here, subject to the conditions of the consent in attachment 1, removing consent condition 5 pending staff approval of changes to the cafe entry. Also that the section 94 contribution be restricted to the funding of proposed St Albans Square should it be built.
Got a second of that?
Yes, the section 94, which I think is around 11,400, be restricted to the St Albans Square, which will be built on St Albans Street, should council approve it, of course. But being that section 94s are for parks and whatnot, that's what St Albans Square is.
Yeah, Mr. Pringle.
No, through Mr. Mayor, I don't think that's possible to actually allocate those funds for that particular purpose. The funds are allocated in accordance with the section 94 plan.
So you happy?
Then I remove the second part of that and I'll figure out another way to get the money.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. We've got a seconder for the first original part of Councillor Burns's motion. Second, Councillor Driscoll. Any questions, comment, discussion around it? Councillor Abbott.
So just for lots of clarification, are we on page 40? Yes. Okay. So I actually missed what the amendment was. I've got the last bit that we're not going to go ahead with the money option. But yes, so would it be able to, could you read that out again to me, please, before I ask my questions?
Oh, Councillor Burns, you moved. Can you read that out again, please?
Certainly. The council grant consent to development application number 55/2020 for commercial alterations, additions, serviced apartments at 180 Kelly Street, Scone, lot 80 DP 601823, subject to the conditions of consent in attachment 1, removing consent condition 5 pending staff approval of changes to the cafe entry. Okay,
that was moved by Councillor Burns, second by Councillor Driscoll. Any more questions, comment, discussion around it? Councillor Campbell,
No, it's all.
Councillor Abbott?
Just to clear me, Mr. Mayor, that means that the alterations that were decided that room 8 will not be removed, but rather the sliding doors or whatever it may be will close off the cafe. Is that correct? Am I just someone clarify that, please?
That's the way I understand it. Councillor Burns, you happy with that?
Yes.
That's it. Mr. Pinkle?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd suggest that rather than do it that way, that a condition number 2, deferred commencement condition, be added. Seeking that amendment. I think that would be the correct way of doing it. If that's the way that the council wishes to go.
You happy with that, Councillor Burns?
Just say that again, sorry.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, if the council wishes to vote that way, that it should be done as a deferred commencement condition. I think that would be preferred. So condition number 2, deferred commencement condition, that amended plans be submitted, demonstrating what you've requested.
So to be clear, that won't slow down what the proponent's doing at all. It just means that the decision is deferred until then. So we'll approve it tonight and say yes, as long as you get this right.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. So the consent doesn't operate until those deferred commencement conditions are satisfied.
Okie dokie. Can you write that up for me then? Because I don't know how to do that.
So Councillor Burns a move and Councillor Driscoll the seconder. You happy with that? Councillor Fisher?
For clarification, that is inserted on page 45, is that correct? Under Schedule A, deferred commencement conditions?
That's correct.
Does anyone like to speak against?
Yep.
Councillor Abbott?
Yes. I'm still unclear what we're, with that amendment, I mean, with condition number 5, has that come out? Are we taking that out now, or that's just a clarification?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe that's what Councillor Burns is suggesting, that condition 5 come out, and then there would be a condition, deferred commencement condition number 2 to be inserted, requesting submission of amended plans.
Thank you. So I have a question. Why did this not come before the D&E Standing Committee?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're part of a planning acceleration program at the moment where we're trying to speed up our DA assessment timeframes, and part of that is to put applications directly to council to avoid any delays in determinations, and that's why we've done it this way.
So does that mean so we're not meeting now for a while, or how do we work out which ones get accelerated and which ones don't? Which ones really matter?
Through
which ones don't?
Mr. Mayor, I guess it depends on the timing of the assessment process, when that assessment's completed. There will be a D&E meeting in December as well. So there will be applications coming before the D&E committee in December.
And I just noticed on page 56 that council became aware that work was being carried out within the premises and that an investigation was undertaken, and that the work had begun. What happened after that? What did council do?
Through Mr. Mayor, the council officers advised the owner of the property to cease building works and to wait for the consent to be, or wait for the application to be determined.
So they didn't have to, well, obviously they'd remove things, so they didn't put them back. Oh, okay, and then with the stairs, because I note that the Heritage Advisor has expressed sadness that they're not to be saved. And we've heard Mr. Casson say that they don't fit with modern day standards. Is there no way, I mean, obviously old stairs do fit modern day standards. Is this just more of a space matter? Because it does seem very sad that even notwithstanding the alterations that were done in the 30s, the stairs were kept. Why can't we still keep them for this building?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess that was answered previously by the proponent's consultant. I guess overall, looking at this proposal, we felt the benefits of the proposal outweighed the disbenefits. So we've recommended approval of the application.
And just my last question, it basically on page 69, it says with number F with heritage, and there's a yes there, but have we satisfied all the heritage components, do we think?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have obviously assessed the heritage impacts of this proposal, and we acknowledge there are impacts, heritage impacts. However, we feel that the impacts aren't of significance to warrant refusal of the application.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was just questions. So if you'd like to speak, Councillor Watts, against it, you're quite happy?
Oh, sorry.
So we're already clear on the, now we've got the small amended recommendation by Councillor Burns and second by Councillor Driscoll. No more discussion, comment? All in favour? Oh, wait, hang on.
I think it's becoming harder and harder by the acceleration project that we're not getting some of the information. I'm glad the doors are being saved. I think we really need the graphics to show. What we received today was great, but what we received to look at prior to the meeting just wasn't legible. So a lot of that information's been left behind, but if we've already put in that, we'll add that addition and we will see how that cafe will close and things like that and the doors will remain. I think that's a lot better, but there are going to be issues if we are going to have DAs come just to council without actually getting the time and the information clear enough to make a decision on.
Yep.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, can I just clarify the wording of that deferred commencement condition number 2, just so we get that right? So I understand it was that amended plans showing.
Yeah. Sorry. So I'm just looking at page 45 now. Thank you, Councillor Fisher. I'm not sure how to write it now. Matt, I've confused myself.
So it'd be amended plans showing access arrangements via the cafe entrance.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. That's it.
Via the cafe to allow
the removal.
To allow 24-hour access for, would that be right? 24 access from Kelly Street.
Everyone happy? Well, I think it's a great, and congratulations to them. I think it'll be a great building for Kelly Street. So, okay, all in favour, show of hands. Against? Okay, we've got that written down. Thank you. Okay, councillors, move over to page 89D, 11.2, development application number 103/2020, commercial alterations to aircraft hangar. Got a mover? Move Councillor Campbell, second Councillor Fisher. Any questions, comment, discussion? Councillor Abbott?
Yes. Again, I have already asked this about it not coming to the D&E committee, but it has essentially been answered. But I am concerned about this, and that we're grading some of the DAs, and so that we're fast tracking some, but not the others. So that's a comment. And I was going to ask if this was the old Warbirds Museum, but that has been answered by Mr. Willard. So that was. Just with the trees and their roots and their long-term health, on page 102. So I note that tree number 7 is to come out, but will the works affect the other trees that are there? So on page 102. That's just... Yes, that's a question. And then also noting Mr. Willard's remarks in his public participation on page 112, much of what we say about stormwater appears to be aspirational and not necessarily convincing and concrete. And also on page 112 with the stormwater, it hasn't been ticked one way or the other. And tree 7 has to be removed. Is that because it's a turning circle, or why does the tree have to come out?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so in relation to the removal of tree number 7,
Yep.
I understand that it's in the way of the proposed access, or sorry, in the way of the turning area. So that will be impacted by that. So that will go. If we can just refer to a couple of recommended conditions of consent. Condition number 15 requires all trees on site to be retained except for tree 7. So that obviously will provide protection for those other trees. Condition number 22 requires no excavation works to be undertaken within 2 metres of the base of each tree adjacent to the proposed detention basin. So that is obviously there to help protect those trees as well. The comment that was made in the report as well is that the detention basin at the front is quite shallow. I think in the deepest part it's only, be less than a foot deep. So I think the potential impact on those trees will be minimal. If you look at that plus the conditions.
Okay, and so just on page, yes, 112. So the stormwater one, was that just an oversight on not ticking that box? It was, yes, there was nothing ticked on stormwater.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe that's the case.
Okay, and yes, basically on page 137, which is Mr. Willard's letter, there are quite a few issues that he raises, and with the noise and light and potential contamination, but the council is sure that they're not going to be problems, those issues?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the applicant did submit a contamination assessment, preliminary contamination assessment, which showed that the site was suitable for the proposed development. There was an acoustic report submitted as well, which showed that the proposed development would not have an adverse impact on surrounding property subject to recommendations. Those recommendations have gone into the conditions of consent. So yeah, on that basis, we were satisfied that the environmental impacts were acceptable.
Thank you. And so we'll keep a close eye on this, because I'm quite mindful that he and a few others live there, that they've actually bought houses on the airport precinct, so that they're in very close quarters to this potential development. Thank you.
Okay, no more questions, comment, discussion, show of hands. All in favour, no one against. Thank you. Move over to page 138, G11.1. Councillor Watts is going to leave the room. Okay, councillors, recommendation in front of you there. We've got a mover. Move Councillor Burns. Second, Councillor Driscoll. Any questions, comment, discussion?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, yes, certainly Councillor Watts certainly did give a very good presentation. Just to clarify this, that Council delegate, point 1 on page 138, that Council delegate to the General Manager to enter into a sublease agreement with the Scone Neighbourhood Resource Centre. Would this mean that if the library was to move as perhaps anticipated, would that mean that this lease would not be needed?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, if we extract ourselves from the lease from that facility, then the sublease would expire as well. We're currently on a month-to-month lease arrangement at the moment, so pending on some other decisions that we make, we may not choose to move forward with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no more questions, comment, discussion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Councillor, what's that recommendation was passed in the affirmative, as is? you. Lost the page here somewhere. Here we go. 141, G 11.2, request for donations. Move councillor Burns, second councillor Campbell. Any questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to G 11.3 on page 148, relocation of Scone Library. Move councillor Driscoll, second councillor Burns. Questions, comment, discussion? Councillor Abbott.
Yes, I'm very disappointed with this move. I'm disappointed that we didn't listen to the Library Committee and that their recommendations haven't really been considered. And as such, I have resigned from the Library Committee as the chair and as a member. I think the first floor is a beautiful space with the beautiful lighting, a space for books, and then an art gallery. I mean, we could have had the option of potentially borrowing pictures from the Regional Art Gallery, which is based in Muswellbrook. Also, because of the space, we might have been able to bring back our community classes with the little tiny tots and all the others that were lost when the former library building was sold, and they all had to get dispersed around the town. It's a magnificent feature for the town, and I believe that if we put the library on that floor, we would have been one of the leading libraries possibly in New South Wales with such a glorious space. And that I know that lots of people have commented me over the years about how that space would really lend itself. I understand the engineering report mentions that there might be a bounce effect depending on the height of the shelves. But there is a gym up there at the moment, so I'm guessing it's relatively structurally sound. And obviously the engineering report says it's structurally sound. And essentially you don't want high shelves anyway for libraries. Yes, I understand about the access, but a new lift would solve that because a lot of hospitals all around the country, a lot of other libraries, public libraries have lifts that go to their first floors or whatever floor it is. So yes, again, I'm very disappointed that the Library Committee, which is an advisory committee, through you, Mr. Mayor, has not been listened to in this respect, and that other committees have had that their recommendations seem to have been considered more important than this particular committee. So those are my objections. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Look, yes, I can sympathise with you, but may I just say, as the chair of the Airport Committee, my committee has brought many, many suggestions through the council, and they've been argued with all the way along, but it's a council decision, not council individuals. So, yeah, Councillor Campbell.
Can I just say in answer to that, though, that your committee at the airport, which you've mentioned, everything's still actually gone the way the airport wants, the airport committee. The Library Committee has had a lot of resistance to it over many things, and this is yet another. So there is a lot of resistance to what the Library recommends. So I just want to point out that the Airport Committee has had everything go its way.
I don't agree with that, but anyway, we'll move on. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I am a member of the Library Committee, and originally I did support moving the library to the top floor. However, I've changed my mind because of some of the evidence. It seems, and I would dispute the fact that it is really structurally safe. And the report, I think, tends to back that up. But look, I think we need to remember that, and one of the reasons that I've changed my mind is the fact that having the library down on the bottom floor will allow, I think, a great opportunity for people as they walk past the library, that they will then look in and just see what a great place it is and go in and have a look around. I think that's really good. Also for the disabled people, I think that's a long way better. That I think you'd get more people that would want to come in and have a look around. The other matter is, of course, that the top floor they then lend itself to office space, which I think would be more conducive to people coming in and starting up a business in the top floor. Then we've got to remember too that the Campbell's Corner has got to be a business proposition. It's got to pay for itself. And so I think that there's more opportunities for, especially since COVID-19, people want to move out from town. We want them to come to Merriwa too and start up a business, but also to Scone to start up their business and relocate. And so I'm supportive of the resolution. I believe that, for the reasons that there are other reasons too. However, I believe it is much better that if it be on the library be located on the bottom floor. Thank you.
Councillor Campbell, no more questions, comment?
Yeah. Oh, I have one. I'd just like to, in answer, or rather to comment on that. There is nowhere in this report that it says the first floor wouldn't be suitable for a library. I mean, the facts here don't say that we couldn't have it there. So I just want to clarify that, because there was an inference that it's weak. That's a weak structure. And that also, further clarification, is that what is to happen with the top floor? It's to be turned into offices. So we're going to be putting partitions through there, are we?
I don't think there's been any decision on that. The main thing about this recommendation here is to relocate the library to the first floor. So no more questions, comment, discussion. Councillor Fisher or Councillor Watts? Councillor Watts. Councillor Fisher.
Yeah, I just want to make some brief comments. I too had always envisaged the library upstairs throughout the purchase of the building, etc., etc. I still believe the space upstairs is magnificent and will lend itself to other uses, community uses rather than office space. I've mentioned Tamworth many times in this committee, and in this room, sorry. The Tamworth Library is downstairs, and above it is a beautiful art gallery space where I go to see the works of Hannah Key and other Murrurundi-based artists, and I would love to have a space where our artists can display their works in our shop, and I think upstairs would be fantastic for that. I'm slightly reconciled to downstairs, having spent some time there in the recent Scone Chamber of Commerce get together, and it is a good space. Once you get into it, there are several nooks and crannies and interesting features to it, which would lend itself very well, I think, to a library. And I think my fourth point is to ask my councillor colleague on my right if she might, in fullness of time, reconsider her library committee membership, because she's been a champion for libraries, and it'd be a shame to lose that.
Thank you, Councillor Fisher. Councillor Watts.
I don't want to be repeating everything, but I know that my colleague next to me is not going to be happy, but I'm in the same boat. We've thought about this and we've thought about it hard. And just in relation to the last information we've received, I'm concerned that we won't get the grants. I'm concerned with the extra cost, especially in relation to the elevator, the lift. I'm really concerned that it's time we started to move instead of continually putting rent into someone else's pocket and providing a service and getting something going for this community. The library over there at the moment, it can be so much, but it's not. There, is very limited space, there's very limited access, and this is something we can do and start straight away. We can actually move from tonight and get the building going. And the other thing that did come to mind, and in relation to, if we had a fire, it's mostly elderly and young that use our libraries. You can't use a lift when there's a fire. And I know that's maybe a non-existent thing, but it could happen. And I just think that if we do it right, we have a bit of vision and we actually create a library that, we'll be proud of seeing from the bottom floor. I think that that's something we can work with. And I too would hope that Councillor Abbott reconsiders her position, because you've done a lot of work there and there's a lot more to do, and we need someone pushing that library committee.
Thank you, Councillor Watts. No more questions?
Just in relation to both the colleagues on both my sides, no, I won't be reconsidering. And the library committee is obviously not all of them, but we're frustrated. We feel we have been blocked. And so no, I'm not. I think it needs somebody else who can go with council's vision. Council has a vision for the ground floor, and I'm not part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. So all in favour? Against? Councillor Abbott against? No problem. Thank you. Okay, councillors, move on to page 156, G 11.4, 2021 local public holiday. Move Councillor Driscoll, second Councillor Fisher. Questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 161, I 11.1, level crossing road approach safety upgrade program. Move Councillor Fisher, second Councillor Campbell. Any questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 166.
Move with
I
an amendment.
11.2. Councillors, remember this was one of the submissions we had from Mrs. Full James. Councillor Fisher.
Yes, 1, 2, 3 and 4 to stay, and the addition of point 5, which would be Clifflands Road to 3 kilometres and Yarrandai Road to 6 kilometres. Excuse me, 6 kilometres.
Got a seconder for that? Councillor Campbell. Any questions, comment, discussion?
Yes.
Councillor.
Again, we have more roads on the table. And using the road terminology for the grant, fixing local housing, we have to do it. We actually have to start. We can't just be looking at women's refuges, which is just for a very short term. We need to have long-term housing that will keep our ratepayers safe. And that actually addresses mental health issues, because you really do suffer from mental health if you don't know where you're going to live next year. We need long-term housing security that you can think when you move into a council house or whatever you call them here in Australia, that you've got a home you don't even have to think about it anymore. And it distresses me no end to see the money we spend on roads. And when are we going to spend it on housing? And I'm just fed up having to constantly talk about this as though it's a sort of a fringe thing that we might be able to have if we have funding. Why don't we have funding for this? Why don't we have part of our budget literally for our housing and for creating homes for families and children and elderly people and single women and other people who need homes?
I understand, Councillor Abbott, but the recommendations in front is, I think you've expressed your concerns earlier there. It's taken on notice, but the recommendations in front of us here. So, Councillor Campbell.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for that. Look, I suggest that we seem to have someone that just doesn't have the appetite for the roads. Perhaps go out and talk to these people that can't get out of their farms and places to get to work and face dangerous roads, unsafe roads. We have not got enough funding for our roads, and I believe that the housing issue is a state issue, and that is not on the council. Is not for council really to be involved. I know in England they do that, but we're in Australia. The roads are really bad, and the point is that the more we just say, I've got an insatiable appetite to see my ratepayers, especially out in the outer areas, that have sufficient roads, not tarred roads, but roads that are passable to get to their work.
I'm sorry, but I've got to respond to that. I understand everything about roads in this shire, but to say that about someone that does not have a home to live in is just absurd. You have no idea about people that don't have anywhere to live. We have a house next to the doctor's surgery here that is so overgrown, yet we've identified it as a house where people that are vulnerable have nowhere to live to go. But we haven't even made the effort to go and mow the lawn, never mind get it fixed up. So for you to say that, I think it's just so wrong, councillors.
We'll get back on the page of the recommendation. I can understand.
And next time, Mr Mayor, you need to pull someone else up first.
I think there's room to follow the discussion through. But dot point 3, unsealed road re-shooting program, and I'm the same. I've been all over the shire in the last few months, and it's someone that's getting dangerous. But anyway, that's just the recommendations in front, and there's 5 points of it, and it's been moved and second. Councillor. Councillor Driscoll's unsealed road resheeting. It will be all unsealed roads depending on where the funding, which direction the funding goes.
Yeah, well, this part in the middle between the two-car roads and the street thing there that.
Yep, that's part of the
I
program.
really turned my car around.
That's part of the program, Councillor Driscoll, and it certainly will be. Okay, that's been moved and second. All in favour? Aye. Against? Councillor Abbott, against? Carried. Over to page 174, I11.3, Marundi Youth Park Project. Move Councillor Driscoll, second Councillor Burns. Questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 178, I11.4, Community Consultation Surplus Land Scone Bypass. Mover? Move Councillor Fisher, second Councillor Burns. Questions, comment, discussion? Councillor Abbott.
Yes, so it was great to see the submissions, and clearly there's lots of things we can do with this patch of land, which is great. And I see that the skate park was very popular, and I hope that we might, and I know that we're probably looking at things that don't cost us anything, but I would urge that we do look at the skate park, because we do need to do more for our young people. And I think having a skate park under the bypass would be really cool, even though I don't know what cool really is as a young person. But I would like to, when you think of Berlin and what they've done under their bridges and things, that really grungy feel, we could really do that under the bypass. So I'd like to see money spent there. I also would like to see money spent on a community garden. And I get the off-dog leash area has become a problem because it's still quite a small space that's being offered just there under the bypass. And I have been chatting to someone the other day about the RV park and where that's potentially going to go, but they expressed concern about there's quite a hike to the loos. And I wondered, would we ever consider putting the RV park in White Park, given that there's camping facilities there, and then giving the off-dog leash area back to where they have been? I mean, there's lots of wonderful proposals, and people mentioned Musselbrook have done a fabulous thing with their park and all sorts of things. I think I've missed out something. They were all great, the submissions. There's lots of valid things there. I would love to see the young ones and their skate park under the bypass. The community garden could fit there very easily. The community garden, as I think you may be aware, Mr. Haviard is aware, because I've approached him as a community person with a loose group of founding gardeners, and we haven't really done very much, except we all agree we'd like to do it. And clearly from the submissions, there are lots of people who would as well. And we were sort of looking at the mantra of the fabulous Yorkshire group that have the incredible edible, whose mantra is, if you eat, you're in. So you don't necessarily have to garden, but if you like broccoli, you can come and pick it, and that sort of stuff. So that obviously wouldn't take too much money. The skate park would take a lot of money, I think. I think we need to look at the off-dog leash area and maybe just rethink about the RV park into White Park. But it's fabulous. And I guess we're going to have to look at the land. Somebody did mention that, and whether it's contaminated. Obviously, with the community garden, we can be there and then you can bump us if it doesn't all work out. But the skate park, to me, I really champion the idea of a skate park, and the community garden could easily be near there, and then we can say to them, come and get your zucchinis and your silver beet on your way home. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, could I make a comment too, please?
Yes.
Can I just ask, we said to go out to the community consultation. This is what's come back. What were the plans once this came back?
Through the mayor. So the plan was to, step one, enter into a licence with Transport for New South Wales to actually start using the land. And step two was obviously to do more detailed conversation with the adjoining property owners with the main priority projects that we're looking at. And on the assumption that they don't have too much issue, then we would look at designing up the preferred options. So we're looking at the community garden, the dog off leash park and the skate park, actually work up some costs for those and then look at the funding options that are, there's a couple of funding options in the next few months that council's going to be considering, and see whether these would be suitable projects for those funding programs.
What I'm asking is, will the three top, which are very well with the top, all be provided at some space or in the near future? I understand the skate park may need funding, but would we start applying for funding for that straight away?
My recommendation would be that we would work up a concept plan straight away for those three projects, and if there's something that we can do straight away, so like I know the dog off leash park needs better fencing, but having the fencing that what we've got, is it usable now as a beginning? Potentially yes, if that works, we could use it as a dog off leash park until we get funding. If it works for a community garden, you could consider using it as a community garden if you don't have to put any funding into it until we finally work up a bit more of a master plan on the project.
Just sorry, Mr. Mayor, just to mention or go over again about the RV park. I know I wasn't here when council resolved it, about where it is going to be, and I understand that's a really great area. But I have had a few people who do use caravans and RVs, or I'm not sure if they're the same, but they have talked about there is a bit of a walk to the loos. So, and the amenities block or wherever that is. So,
yep.
So would council consider about White Park and using their facilities, given that they've got this fabulous setup there?
Yeah, Councillor Abbott, I've met probably 6 or 8 caravanners down on site. I've been to Bingara and looked at it, remembering this is self-contained. It's been made very clear it's self-contained. We're not going into opposition with caravan parks or whatever. So you've got to go there with your own caravan, your own toilet, your own power. And if you wish to drive to a toilet or wish to go and get water, you can. But it is very, very low key at a very minimal cost, and then see where we go to in the long run. Okay, councillors. Councillor Fisher.
Just a couple of very quick points. The batch of Mayor for the Day entries that I got, I think probably 50% of them mentioned a skate park. So I think that's going to be a very popular addition, and I think we should actually talk to people who skate. I haven't since I was about 10 years old, so I'm probably not the right person. White Park and RVs. RVers don't tend to mix very well with horse people. Where they do coexist, places like Gleninnis, showgrounds, etc., they're kept very, very separate. I don't think that's a goer.
Thank you. No more questions. Councillor Campbell.
Mr. Mayor, if I just may make a comment, you're speaking about the skate park. Look, the skate park at Merriwall is we are very proud of it, but it is used a lot. We have this double bowl skate that goes up and down and that sort of thing, and it's world class. And it just seems to attract travellers and people that come up from down the coast. They bring their little scooters with them, and they use it, and also the other facilities. So all I can do is to encourage you over here to put in a skate park if it's possible, because they are really well accepted and well used. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. I think that's very clear that we'll try and source fundings as we go along, and it would be great to see. No more questions, comment, discussion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 188. No, sorry, I've gone one too many. Scan CBD Revitalisation Monthly Update, 11.5. Yep. Move, Councillor Driscoll, was it? Second, Councillor Burns, sorry. Excuse me, Councillor Burns, I will be in trouble. Second, Councillor Fisher. Any questions, comment, discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. 133 Kelly Street. DA assessment, September, October 2020 is completed. We haven't seen it yet. Where are we up to with the DA assessment?
Through Mr Mayor, I believe it was determined by council at the last meeting.
Thank you very much. I apologise. I was sick last one and I didn't make it to the Revitalisation Committee and I didn't. Thank you very much. Well done.
No more questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to 188 now. NM 11.1, notice of motion, Hunter Joint Organisation. Councillor Abbott.
Yes, I move this. I will read it out for the people who haven't read this online.
Yep.
So my motion is that council, 1, review its membership with the Hunter Joint Organisation and then reconsider whether belonging to a large group of 10 New South Wales councils actually benefits every single resident and ratepayer in the entire Upper Hunter Shire community. 2, direct the General Manager to provide councillors with a comprehensive report with respect to either continuing or withdrawing our membership with the Hunter Joint Organisation, and request that this report come back to councillors at the February 2021 Ordinary Council meeting.
Thank you. Got a seconder? Councillor Watts. Councillor Abbott, you can.
Thank you. So for some time, I have been concerned about our membership with the Hunter Joint Organisation. As such, I have asked many questions to Upper Hunter Shire Council Management and the former Mayor as to how we, as a Shire, benefit from membership with this group of 10 councils. The Hunter JO, I'm going to call it the Hunter JO, for short for the Hunter Joint Organisation. The Hunter JO website is clunky and not forthcoming with information and no answers that I've received no answers from Upper Hunter Shire Council, which allayed my concerns. Whilst Mr. Glenn Inglis was here as the acting or the interim acting general manager, he provided us with a comprehensive report of his week's activities. And it was in one of those that I noted reports that the Muswellbrook Shire Council had elected to withdraw their membership. I asked Mr. Inglis if he knew why, and I also searched Hunter JO's website, but no reasons were provided anywhere. Last week, I wrote to the General Manager of Muswellbrook Shire Council and asked for a copy of reasons as to why Muswellbrook had decided to withdraw their membership. I was provided with them, and the copy of reasons confirm all the concerns I have had, namely the connection with the Committee for the Hunter, which is primarily represents only Newcastle business interests and the top end of town business interests. Muswellbrook Shire Council noted the potential corruption risks of the Hunter JO and its member councils being associated with such a scheme, and I share those concerns too. In my opinion, membership with the Hunter JO leaves us exposed and does not guarantee all of the Upper Hunter Shire residents and ratepayers an equal say in the future of our region.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. As I said, I'm on that panel. I haven't had the opportunity to go down to Toronto to the meetings. It's all been Zoom, and it's been very hard to get my head around it itself. But I'm certainly, the motion's in front of us and you've got a seconder, so I'll put it up.
I have a if nobody else has got anything to say, I have a closing bit too that I was saving, which I can wrap if is nobody else going to say anything against it before it.
The Hunter JO is actually mandated by the state. I don't know what Muswellbrook's up to, and I don't care. I don't represent them. What we get out of it is cheaper legal, cheaper tendering, cheaper across the board, okay? You get out of something what you put in. So if we're not putting in enough, if we're not getting enough out, we need to put more in. I can't see the point in. I understand that this is only a review, but our staff are going to have to spend time. That's going to take them away from their core role. That's going to take money. So there is no finance on this particular, but I can't see us. I won't support leaving the Hunter JO.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Okay. Councillor Fisher.
That isn't what the motion says. I mean, it's clearly been brought by someone who would like us to leave the Hunter JO. I understand the reasons why Muswellbrook left. I share those concerns too. And I think they were very well put by Muswellbrook Shire. But I fully expect that the review would come back and say that the benefits of membership far outweigh those of removing ourselves from it. I always think you're better off inside the tent, but I shall await the review.
Thank you, Councillor Fisher. Okay, no more questions?
Well, I would like to close then. So what are pressing issues to Newcastle and the Committee of the Hunter, which is a very shadowy organisation, which I think looks very questionable. So what are pressing issues to them are definitely actually not pressing issues to our shire in the Upper Hunter. I note that Muswellbrook intends to remain a shareholder in Strategic Services Australia Limited and a customer of its shared services, and I completely understand why. We may choose to do the same after we have received the report, should this motion be carried. And as Councillor Fisher has pointed out, this is a request for information looking at our membership and whether we should continue with our membership or whether we should withdraw. That is what my motion is about. And I just provided, I just approached Muswellbrook Council, the General Manager, to see a copy of their reasons because I had not been provided with them. And I was very interested to hear that Muswellbrook Shire Council wanted to leave. And for instance, the projects that the Committee of the Hunter are looking at are Newcastle Airport and the port. Like, this is a far cry from residents of Castleston, Murrurundi, Merriwa, Aberdeen and Scone. There are some big ticket items there that we can get involved in, but we're not really across. I mean, really, how often do we all read the minutes and what the Hunter JO is actually doing? But anyway, that's my conclusion. Thank you.
Yes, I got no problem with the motion, and nothing I can say is it wasn't up to Upper Hunter Shire Council to find out why Muswellbrook left, but individually you've done that, so I've got no problem. So, all in favour of the motion? Aye. Against? Councillor Burns against? Carried. Go to page 189, NM 11.2, notice of motion, road maintenance. Got a mover? Moved. Got a seconder? Seconder, Councillor Driscoll. Councillor Campbell, you'd like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to read out what the motion is about, that council revisit the expenditure and repair of rural roads and increase the allocated amount to enable council's road graders and repair crews to deliver maintenance and drainage to an acceptable standard. The rationale behind it: the rural roads have not been maintained to an acceptable level and have deteriorated to an unsafe level, despite council having passed a motion that stated gravel patching should be carried out as part of the maintenance grading. Some roads have gully washouts and have not been attended to. The road surface does not have gravel to grade back onto the road when lack of drainage has not been carried out. The real reason behind this, of course, is the lack of funding. We can come along and admonish or suggest to the engineers that they're not doing their job, whichever way. However, they don't have the funding to do that. And this is something that I think we have, and we as a council, I believe, has let down our ratepayers, because we've got areas there and roads that have gullies beside them. We don't have sufficient funds to fix them up. Now, to repair them, I received a letter from Ivan Gant from Castlers Cattle Creek Road, and I would like to table this document. Also, I'll just read from the top part, but it's all on the same level. Dear Ron, I completed form of the state of the Cattle Creek Road at the Merriwa office in the Upper Hunter Shire on the 13th of the 11th, 2020. The road is near impassable in several spots due to washouts. One is cut back to the road 2 metres deep. One pipe head is similar and needed urgent attention. Black soil has washed onto the road through several areas of the property, Cattle Creek, including the washouts that has been cut back to the road edge. It's a very dangerous situation. The general road integrity is poor, to little grading and virtually no attention to soil banks, gutters, which leads to water running down the road in several places and causing major washouts areas for up to 100 metres in some places. one near our place, and which Cattle Creek is at Castless, is up to 1 metre wide and 200 to 300 millimetres deep. The road width has been allowed to retract in some places, and the set of wheel tracks. Now we can turn around and blame anybody, everybody. It doesn't matter. We don't have the funding, and I'm suggesting too that we need to address this because we need to increase when our next Depop comes up, increase the road funding so we can give the engineers some funding to carry out their job in a proper way. It really comes down to the funding, and I have always had a personal view that it is the state governments and federal governments that need to supply more money to the roads. Council is struggling to maintain the roads that we have now. These people are not asking for a tarred road to their properties, but rather they want passable roads that they can get out and carry out their business. And so I would ask my fellow councillors to support this motion. I believe that it is necessary for us as councillors and also for the Upper Hunter Shire Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. The Speaker against the motion. Councillor Abbott, you
want
speaking against or just comment?
Abbott said comment.
Comment, thank you.
So my comment is, I'm not entirely clear what this actually means, this motion, if it gets passed, because haven't we already allocated our money for this year? What does this actually mean, this motion?
Mr. Abbott, you'd like to answer that? Or Councillor Campbell, can you make it a little bit?
Yes, all right. Look, yes, I do agree. It was $1.7 million, which is totally inadequate for the large area of the Shire. No matter where you drive today, you can go out in these areas, and especially in the eastern and the western area, all the gravel roads are in a terrible state. Some of them are almost impassable, and that's what I'm saying here. But when I put down the acceptable level, that doesn't mean that we're asking there, and these people are asking the road be graded 3 times a year. They're only asking that it be graded, which is probably only once a year, but it to be passable level. The damage that is caused needs to be repaired so that grading will suffice.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. So what I'd suggest is next year when the Depop comes up, that you and your fellow councillors, if that's the way you wish, you're going to have to fight for more funding out of that Depop.
So, Mr. Mel, sorry, I just want to say, so what are we to do with this? I mean, what do we do now? I'm confused.
Yes, Councillor Watts.
It's well, it basically comes down to it might be inadequate, but we had a time and we had a plan when we did our Depop. So when that Depop comes out, we can change the amount then. I don't think this is the time or the place to be doing it mid-year, to be asking for additional money. I think when we need to do it is at that Depop place, but it's when the staff come to us with what they allocate and where we're going to take it from somewhere else within that budget. And that's something we need to look at when we've got the figures in front of us. It's definitely not something we can address at a meeting halfway through the year.
I certainly agree with Councillor Campbell. The community strategic plan has for years said rural roads, and we're probably not quite following through in the budget. Christian.
Yeah, I would kind of echo that. The next year's budget is the time to do it. Having said that, there is an opportunity which we have already discussed under the Fixing Local Roads Grant, round 2. So we have agreed to put money into roads through that program. We will be doing an assessment as to how much we will be applying for, but it certainly will be informed by this information in this report. And hopefully that will get us a good sum of money to add to the roads budget.
Thank you. No more questions, comment, discussion. All in favour? Aye. Against? Show of hands, please. 4. No, 4 for the start is 1, 2, 3, 4, and against 3. So the motion is carried. Over to page 192, QWN 111, questions with notice. Councillor Abbott, you happy with the responses?
I have more questions on those. So I'll just go through them. So with question 1, the response was yes. So my next question to that is, when will that happen? Do I need to read the questions out?
No.
Okay, so when will that happen is the next question.
I'm happy to meet with you and go through it. That's
Okay.
fine.
And then with question 2, an aircraft loan agreement, can I see an example?
You won't see an example because we haven't entered into any agreement, but there is a template.
So can I see the template?
Yeah, we'll do it at the same time because it's actually part of the part 1.
Okay, and so with 3, the aircraft are provided free of charge. How will this play out is my next question. And what about insurances and damages if those planes which are provided free of charge, what if they do get damaged on council premises?
Oh, look, we have general hangar insurance, and it's part of the agreement that the parties to the agreement have to maintain a certain level of aircraft in the museum, because obviously we don't want an empty museum. So that has to be supplied at a reasonable number of aircraft, which I think there won't be any issue with that. In terms of insurance, like I said, we'll have general insurance for the aircraft, but they will have their own insurance as well. But anything that we do on our premises that is due to our negligence or our fault, like say if there's a fire, covered by our insurance.
So that will be expensive insurance?
I don't believe so. I'll have to get back to you on that one. We did do that as part of the feasibility assessment.
And with my question with respect to trust arrangements and as to who actually owns the planes and when we enter into a lease agreements, I'm just asking the question because I just want to know, will there be a suable entity for us should we need to think about things like that as well? If whoever is providing us with planes, if they don't fulfill their part of the bargain, will we have the ability to also seek recompense?
I'll have to talk with you privately about
that. Okay.
Yep.
And then with my question about the extensive car park building, it's not for the Warbirds Museum. So what is it for, that car park that's being built at the moment? Or that people were saying there's a lot of concreting out there and that the air side of the runway side of things seems to have been completed, but there's a car park happening.
No, Councillor, the car park hasn't been started. I think what you found, that'll be the parking area for planes, so the tarmac for the planes. The apron, sorry.
And also 6, you've pointed me to the various funding streams that were presented to Council in August 2020, but could I have an update breakdown in a really simple bullet format as to how that's going to be met? Is that possible?
I can give that to you.
Thank you. And I asked a question about a DA for bedrooms out at the Aero Club. And council isn't aware of Scone Aero Club and bedrooms, but I have been informed that council safety officer lives there. And also that if there was never an approval granted, that before that happened, before council took over the lease of the building last November, that there were other tenants who lived at the Aero Club as well. So was there ever a DA for accommodation at the Aero Club? I asked that again.
I might refer that to Mr. Pringle. His advice to me was he wasn't aware of any DA. That's correct, Mr. Pringle?
No, through you, Mr. Mayor, we've searched our records and couldn't find an approval for 3 bedrooms.
So is it the case that the council safety officer lives at the Aero Club?
I have no idea where that is.
And then just also with respect to the airport being moved from the engineering department into corporate services, and I still don't understand why the airport project's considered an activity and or a function of corporate services. So I would like that further explained, and you don't have to do it now, but I would like it explained at some stage. I know you did explain it at the infrastructure meeting, or somebody did, but I still don't understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Just councillors, I'd love to see that word museum taken out. It's an aviation attraction centre. It's not a museum.
Oh, well, it's a Warbirds Museum. That's a new fancy term.
No, it's not a museum, Councillor Abbott. It's an aviation attraction centre. Okay.
Can I just comment on that?
Yes.
The reason we're moving away from the title museum is that indicates like a static display of like things that are just not movable. Where the point of difference for our centre is that you can actually go in and you can hire a plane for a joy flight. So it's an interactive centre rather than just there will be some static planes, but a lot of them you will be able to charter them for joy flights.
Okay. Questions from those, that's handled that. Okay, councillors, can someone move us into closed council, please? Move Councillor Burns, second Councillor Driscoll. In favour? Against? Carried.